cultural and development organizations including Friendship NGO, the Bengal Institute of Architecture, Landscape and Settlements, the Bangladesh National Museum, and a past 9 term in the BRAC board. She is also Vice President of the World Crafts Council, Asia Pacific region. The speakers for these sessions are architect Kashef Mahboob Chowdhury and architect Wong Man Sam. Architect Kashef Chowdhury co-founded the Dhaka-based firm URBANA in 1995, leading the practice as solo principal since 2005. Chowdhury selects his clients and commissions carefully and invests in each work sufficient time and research to arrive at a contextually and socially responsible and appropriate architectural and planning response. Works in the studio vary in size and scale, and many have been designed pro bono. Kashef Chowdhury URBANA's projects span various typologies, from institutions to public buildings to culture, education, sports, health, industry, religious, residential, and climate action projects. URBANA received first prize and commission through the national competition for the Independence Monument and Museum of Bangladesh in 1997. Kashef Chowdhury has received the AR+D first prize from the Architectural Review in London in 2012, the Aga Khan Award for Architecture in 2016, and the Royal Institute of British Architects RIBA International Prize in 2021. The second speaker, architect Mun Sam Wong, co-founded the Singapore-based architectural practice WOHA in 1994. He is a professor in practice and at the National University of Singapore's Department of Architecture and co-directs the Integrated Sustainable Design Masters Studio. He was also appointed to the Seidler Chair in the Practice of Architecture at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. He sits on the nominating committee of the Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize, the Design Advisory Board of Design Singapore Council, as well as a member of the CTBUH Masters of Tall Building and Vertical Urbanism Advisory Panel in collaboration with the Illinois Institute of Technology. Panel guest for this session is Professor Dr. Khandokar Shabbir Ahmed. Professor Dr. Khandokar Shabbir Ahmed is a distinguished Bangladeshi architect and academic, currently serving as a professor in the Department of Architecture at Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, BUET. Dr. Ahmed specializes in bioclimatic urban design with a focus on low energy and high performance buildings, sustainable cities, and urban microclimates. He has served as the head of the Department of Architecture and as the Dean of the Faculty of Architecture and Planning. Beyond academia, Dr. Ahmed has contributed to national policy through his involvement with the Housing and Building Research Institute, HBRI. He is the immediate past president of Institute of Architects, Bangladesh. Let's welcome our first speaker for this session, architect Kashef Mahboob Chowdhury, with the talk, Climate plus Landscape, Uncertain Certainties. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. Thanks especially to Jalal Bhai and to BSRM. A special really shout out to BSRM for really supporting this important architectural dialogue. I think we need more of this without doubt, but there's always a good time to start. This is not the first time, I think, that we are talking about the future of architecture in this country. The conference titled Where to Go. To be very frank, I think it's very difficult to say where architecture is heading at any given moment in time, but especially at the crossroads that we find ourselves in today. So if we talk about this country, this region, this geopolitical region, geocultural region, then I think we're talking about two certainties, which is the climate, which is always there, the ever-present climate, and the ever-imposing landscape. But these two factors are now in a state of uncertainty because of the changing climate and because of the various shifts that this changing climate is causing or has influenced our landscape. This is where we are. The question I always ask myself is it the water in the land or land in the water? And here we see the two important things, the two certainties that I just talked about, the landscape and the climate above or around us, and which unfortunately is in a total state of flux and in quite a lot of uncertainty today. This, of course, is Bangladesh, a country of about 700 rivers and innumerable canals, and which sort of covers this country like veins in a human body. And so this ever-present water, which of course we have heard before, today also in other presentations, I think this governs the way of our life and living, but also our interventions into the landscape that I just talked about. I'm going to, because of the limited time, I'm just going to talk about two projects. The first is our work in the river network in the north of the country, which we started in 2005 with the founder of Friendship, the NGO Friendship, Runa Khan. Back then, Friendship was really a small entity, and we were really trying to understand how to go about doing a project that was almost really not understood fully at that point in time. So this is where we are in the Jamuna-Brahmaputra River network up in the north, as I said. And so the water that comes down from the Himalayas, especially from this river draws its waters from the glacial melts of Tibet. And as the water comes down from the Himalayas, the water slows down as soon as it hits the flat plain of the delta. And as it sort of slows, it starts to deposit alluvial silt or soil. And that's why we see this buildup of sandbanks which form within the waterway. And people come to live here. And they do not go away even when there are floods. The reason is, of course, we all know that in these chars, they have really nowhere else to go. So they would not move even if there were floods. And our project was really to address this issue, because sometimes these floods would stay for a month or even 2 months. And because the people would not move, how could we help the situation? Now, right down below, you can see the width of the river, which is 7 miles or 10 kilometers. That's the width of the waterway of Jamuna. And during the drier season, it looks like this, but in the rainy season, it really becomes an endless ocean. And the ferocity of the water and the power of the water is such that our first choice of building on stilts was not a practical solution. Now, in this country, there are buildings on stilts, but they're mainly concentrated in the hill tracts. The reason being, the raised houses allows the water from the slopes to sort of go beneath the houses, thus saving the structure as well as allowing other functions to take place below that, those structures themselves. But in the river, where the currents could be quite high, it's really not possible to have houses on stilts. And I'm here to tell you today that from Bangladesh, there is another kind of a proposal of a house on stilts, and I can tell you today that it doesn't work. It cannot work because of very simple reasons. You see on the left, a house that would be on stilts would really be prone to whirlpools and eddy currents, which would take away its foundations. And the only foundation that would work would be really deep foundations. So in the manner of tens of meters. Now, that beats the purpose of doing raising houses for really some of the poorest of poor in the country or in the world. So the other problem with stilt houses, of course, these are funny sketches, but it really makes the point that it doesn't take care of the cattle. Now, for these poor people, a cow or a goat is all they have. And they are not going to leave them behind, or they're not going to have them washed away with the flood. And so raising a house and bringing the cattle on it is not a practical solution, or it's not a possibility. And we have information from journalists, from newspapers, from the media, that many toddlers and babies have fallen into these high current waters and have been lost. So as I said, because these currents can last for weeks, if not months. So our solution was not to raise individual houses, but to raise an entire village above the level of highest recorded floods. Now, this idea was not the first that we sort of came up with. It existed before. Some government projects, some other NGOs have tried doing it, but one of the things that happened is they broke away very quickly because they tried this kind of a rectangular kind of a so-called plinth, but they broke away. So when we started in 2005, we used to land in the river with a seaplane, and because that's the only way we could go there. These are such remote places. And from the plane, I could see these chores, which were like comet shapes. If you look at any chore in the north of the country, you will see that they are not rectangular. They are comet shapes because they have a trail. So as the water sort of moves out, they deposit the silt, and there's a tail. So just like a comet, you have this kind of a broader front side and a trailing end. And that's what we sort of followed. And we came up with this teardrop-shaped kind of an island. And we accommodated the entire village on top of that island, but following the way the traditional villages and their courtyards sort of work. And we left it open for the villagers to follow our drawings, but also not follow. And so we went through this kind of discussion, and through many years of trial and error, we changed the plans as we went on. So this project, we have done 22 so far. 2 more are just finishing, so we do a couple almost every year or so. And this has been going on for the past 20 years. And so this is what's happening. We go above the level of the highest recorded floods. And so working in these remote areas, back then there was no GPS, there was no phone signals. So it was a very rudimentary way of working, giving a layout in a land which has, of course, no features. There's not even a tree in sight. This is not. So we set up a kind of a regimen of using color for layouts and for the outer rim and the inner rim. I'm sorry, this is not working. That's one of our architects, and so it was a self-help kind of a project where the villages were paid to move their own houses, to cut their own island, so a dig and mound. So they cut the center area, which became the pond, a rain harvest area. So these are the same villages whose houses would be moved. So that's the central pond taking shape. Green returns. And of course, slowly, the villagers bring their own houses on top. And life returns. That's the island in a dry season, in the river island, so to speak. And that's how it looks once inhabited. So people starting to move their houses. And so we had in 2 sides, one a school that you can see on the left, and a community center on the other side, and of course the other villages as they are moving their houses. So how did it fare during a flood? This is during a flood, just as the water is receding. So the cattle, as I said, was very important to us to save them, and this is a community kind of a space where they can bring their cattle together. So that can continue. Village life can continue, and of course agriculture or production can continue. This is jute. Which comes from here. And of course, the central area harvests all of the rain, and that's good for cooking and even drinking, because the flood water, of course, is not safe. This is a situation, for example, this is from 2001. The same area, just 10 years later, becomes like this, and we have our island there because it floods. The whole area would flood during the rainy season. And that's what happens a few years later, it breaks away. So the rivers are, of course, very, very unpredictable, and this is what happens. It just breaks away, and probably may even break away our island as well. So we are very close to breaking points. This is from last year. This is another location. See how it changes from this to this, and now we're not still there anymore, but we're still not there. And there we are. So this is not working. It has been our intention to work around the country, because this the small country or small parcel of land that we have a really wide variety of, let's say, microculture and microeconomics going on all around. And so we have been sort of intentionally looking at projects all around the country. And we don't work only in urban areas or only in rural areas. It's always a mix of various projects. This is the Friendship Center in Gaibandha. This is a pavilion apartment where this is done during my partnership with Marina Tabassum, a project that was I was in charge of. This is a campus for the ULAB, the University of Liberal Arts. So a lot of porosity to bring in air and sunlight and also green. For example, the so-called green lanterns. We have air escapement, the hot air escapes from above. The porosity that I talked about. This is the Museum of Independence, which we won in '97 through the competition. Sorry. So we did a series of mosques since 2008. I don't know, we keep doing mosques because people come to us. And so that was the first one in early 2008. This is a concrete mosque also in Chittagong. The idea was, for me personally, spirituality is more important than ritual. So I looked at mosques not as a place of just worship, but as a place of spirituality. And so in Islam, as you may know, a mosque really needs nothing but a shelter and a clean space and a direction of prayer. And that's what we did. So we worked with various, yes, thank you. We worked with various materials, but always opening it up, like pavilion forms, or sometimes enclosing it if, because of the context. So this is in Keraniganj. It's in red concrete. This is a small mosque in Barisal, a family mosque. It's really a prayer room. This is a cyclone shelter. This thing moves on its own. A very small clinic in a remote location in Mongla. A hospital which was recognized by the Royal Institute. We try to, we actually harvest all of the water that falls within our land, all of it. From rooftops, from the plazas, from the lakes. And there's a lot of stuff going on in there, which of course I will not go into for time's sake. The last project is an art campus in Sylhet, set in the landscape. And it's close to the border with India. It's only about 60 kilometers from one of the wettest places on earth, Cherrapunji. And as you know, Sylhet is a place with a lot of water and estuaries and haors. And the site we got is almost pristine. It's a green agricultural kind of a landscape, hundreds of acres. So instead of having, because they asked for artists' residence, galleries, and other functions, but we dispersed the various functions over the landscape because we didn't want any heavy structures or just one single big structure. And the idea was also that people would move from one to the other in the rain, enjoying the landscape and of course enjoying the weather and the climate. So these are the three focus areas. One is the entrance, the black box or the media gallery, and the houses of the artists. And that's how it looks in the landscape. The entry structure is really like a space trap. So as one enters, it's a point of arrival, but also so that one just doesn't go into the natural landscape. There's a sense of arrival and a sense of preparation before one enters into the sculpture park. So basically, you don't see from inside, you don't see outside, but it's really one space, and it's like a turnstile. It's a space turnstile. We chose the area for the artist residence to be on a hill, because then we could have a better view of the sculpture park all around it. And also because this area had the minimum number of trees, so we could build without cutting or felling trees. And we chose these two areas, especially the one without trees, as the one for the most number of structures, and to hide the other pavilions within the trees itself. So the artist rooms are very basic. It's almost monastic in nature, which we sort of derived or followed from our earlier project, the Friendship Center. And we felt a kind of relationship to the nature was more important than being inside the room. And so the houses or the rooms or the huts, let's say, are very much open to the elements, bringing in a lot of light and natural ventilation. And the way we sort of worked is to have this kind of modules and sort of work them around. So kind of an organic way of designing. Instead of having geometries and fixed ways and kind of grid lines, what we did is we moved around until we found the right combination of space and view and light pouring in, or view in and view out. And that's one of the later iterations. And of course, the views are, let's say, curated. So the views from inside, from the courtyards, the views towards the landscape, towards the hills, towards the sculpture park is sort of designed. And that's how it looks when built. So houses, as you can see, sometimes are grouped together with workspace in the middle. Sometimes they're just independent. On the top over there is the dining pavilion, or the more communal space. Sorry, it's incredible. These are some of the spaces within the this is a space, for example, in between two houses, and a workspace, really. And of course, we kept the lay of the land, so to speak. So you move up or down. I'm sorry. Could I ask you to move yes, so we also looked into details. For example, this is a place where people would be close to, working closely in their spaces. So the materials they would touch, they would work with was important. So, for example, these are this is a kind of stone inlaid flooring. Next, please. For the buildings are in concrete, but the concrete takes on the color of the earth, which is this. Next, please. And cast in raw wood, which also imparts a little bit of its own sort of color. Next, please. Next, please. And of course, as I said, it's more pavilion-like forms, enclosed for privacy or for work, let's say walls, display walls, etc. Next, please. The last element is the black box or the gallery. Next, please. So the curator for the Samdanis is a young American lady, and she's very energetic, she's hyper, she's American. And so she comes to my studio, she says, you know, for the black box, we don't need anything. Just give us a 60 by 80 box, and that's it, you know, and we got this. So just like in the movies, when she said, we got this, I knew this was trouble, you know, and she said, we're going to have it in the, you know, wherever you want. I said, I like the black box to be in the middle of a paddy field. The paddy should go right up to the box, and, you know, it should come really from agriculture, so to speak. Agriculture and art, two ends of the spectrum, so to speak. And she said, oh, that's very nice, we'll have that box. And so as soon as she left, I started drawing. Next, please. Because I knew there should be a conversation, there needs to be a dialogue between the landscape and the art inside. Next, please. And within a few hours, I was able to draw something like this. Next, please. And within 3 days, the team, all of us, we could come up with this, and we got it approved, thankfully. And next, please. It's an undulating kind of a curvaceous wall which encloses, again, a box inside. Next, please. And that's the box or the art gallery in the landscape. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. And as you can see, the workmanship of local craftsmen, it's quite nice. Next, please. We had to train them, but I think what we achieved was quite all right. It's not a very big budget kind of a project, and so the interstitial spaces between the box and the curvaceous kind of outer skin we could use for outdoor sculptures and even performances, and they are earmarked for various performances when it opens. Next, please. This was supposed to open last February, but due to various political situations, it's a bit uncertain. But some very, very famous artists from around the world are scheduled to come and live here and work here. Next, please. So where I started, I come back here to say that climate change is very real. I know this. The pavilion apartment that I showed where I live, I've lived there since 2001. And until 2008, I could live without air conditioning, even without a fan. Since 2008, it has been changing. And I can tell you exactly since 2008. Because our heat island effect or our overall climate is changing. And this is happening, of course, in Bangladesh, and many other places in the Pacific Islands. And for those naysayers who say, you know, climate change is not real, all they have to do is come to Bangladesh, and I can take them to some of our own projects. For example, the hospital in Satkira. It's amazing that people buy water there. It's because the water on the ground and underground is salty. It's salty, it's not usable for drinking, and so some of the poorest of poor buy water in Bangladesh. So literally water everywhere, but really not a drop to drink. And we have dug till 1,200 feet. There is no sweet water, so to speak. And that is why our project sort of took every drop of rainwater we could get. So this attitude that we must have regarding our climate, regarding our cities, regarding our landscapes, and regarding our remote areas is a very unified kind of needs to be a very unified kind of a voice towards sort of not only just tackling, but really understanding this changing situation, not only the climate, but also geocultural, geopolitical situations that we find ourselves in. And I think architecture, while may not be in the forefront, but it really is an element we can use to address many of these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the beautiful presentation.